Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Bite-Size Branding live show. We've got a great show today. I love having extra guests. I'll start off by saying welcome, John. I think this is welcome, John. This is the second show I think he's ever been on. John Hill is my business partner here at 𝑦𝒑𝒐𝒻, and I'm really excited to have him on. And as always, we've got Grant Tom on the show. Thank you, Grant, for joining us. And our special guest today, Avon from 𝑣𝒊𝒐𝒻. Oh my God, I almost screwed up the name. From 𝑣𝒊𝒐𝒻. The reason why we got Avon on is I had a conversation. We had met him through mutual networks. John was on the call. I was on the call. These two start going at it like, I don't know what the hell they were talking about. And I'm like, I just love this energy. I just love this energy. I'm going to get you guys onto a show together with Grant and myself, and just see what happens. Whatever happens. Before we get the crazy stuff firing off, I'm going to shoot it over to Grant to kind of introduce the format, and then I'll throw it back to you, Avon, and you can tell us a little bit what 𝑣𝒊𝒐𝒻's all about. Grant, tell us about the show.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Grant Tom, and I'm the head fire starter of the industry. And I love talking to business owners and marketeers with the view to grow business. That's what we do every day, and make brands grow and scale and be adaptable in the digital space. And on the show, Bite-Size Branding, we talk about a subject matter where we debate it. We try and be controversial. We try and pick holes in it, but at the same time, we try and find solutions for our listeners in the sense of what is valid for their particular business. Normally, we do this with 5 minutes or less, and we try and all jabber in with a view to get points of relevance across the table. Now that we've got two guests, we're going to give it 2 extra minutes. And boys, you've got to get in there, and you've got to say your piece, and you've got to make sure that you're clear and get it across the table. So welcome to the two of you, and welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Thanks, Grant. John, do you want to talk about the business? No, not John. Avon, tell us a little bit more about what 𝑣𝒊𝒐𝒻's all about. And are you guys located in Sydney? Not located in Sydney.
We're in, I'm in Brisbane. We're also in Sydney, Melbourne. We've got someone in Chile. So I guess that's going to lead into our conversation in terms of working from anywhere. But basically, CRM, marketing automation, is our specialization. And we've also got a web hosting company. So we're trying to do that vertical integration through the tech piece and putting the customer really at the center of everything.
Awesome. I love that explanation of a CRM. The CRM is there to put your customer at the center of everything. Great.
Yes.
Is that going on the website? Is that on the 𝑣𝒊𝒐𝒻? Is that the tagline on the homepage?
Not yet, but it's something we say in every conversation. So definitely there's now a spot there for on the website. Sure.
Awesome. And actually, I will throw it over to you, Johnny, and give everyone a little bit of your background too.
Well, so my background, I guess traditionally I've been more of the technical web space, and I come from a technical background and CRM space. I mean, I've been dabbling with CRM systems since they were in the mid-90s. I could probably talk for an hour about that background. And back then they ran on DOS systems. So the first company I ever worked with had a DOS-based CRM that the owner of the business wrote himself. And I saw the company grow as a result of a really, really strong and a very well-used CRM. And to me, that is the core of it, should be at the core of every business.
Awesome.
That's a very serious explanation for me, wasn't
it? Yeah, very serious.
Sorry.
We like systems and technology.
We'll get you into the swing of things.
Well, that's perfect, actually, because it kind of rolls into our first question. With all this change, constant changing of how workforces work and collaborate. We wanted to kind of start this off talking about what is that next level of looking at digitizing your systems within a business. What do people look at when they're considering it? What should they be looking at when they're considering it? And what does that ecosystem, I guess, look like today for digitizing your business? And we're not talking about like bringing it online, putting it on a website. I'm talking about how do you make a business more efficient, more effective. Ready to rumble?
Let's go.
Awesome. Ding, ding. We should have like a little bell at the start.
I guess first, Evan.
All right. Fantastic. All right. So a lot of things people need to think about is getting the people to actually use it, as John mentioned.
Oh, did we just lose?
Over to you, John.
Okay, if he doesn't come back, I'll take over.
Then I go for it, Johnny.
All right, I'm going to jump in. So look, I think, so what's basically happened is that we had a couple of iterations. Oh, totally lost even. A couple of iterations when COVID hit, where there was a lot of businesses that were resistant to digital. And then COVID hit and everyone's like, oh, we better do this digital thing. But I think more so for businesses, and I even hit the nail on the head, or someone did, that the customer, it's all about looking after, how can we look after our customer better? And the whole concept of this word CRM, customer relationship management. Someone said it on a HubSpot chat recently. It was like, it's not like you ring up your customer and say, how can we manage our relationship better? But it's like, it's this whole ecosystem that just hums in the background that makes every interaction with your customer that much more amazing. So I'll hand it back to you, Dave, because you want to roll.
Yeah, Abel knows such a good start, and then like
internet problem. Yeah,
the clock is ticking.
Oh yeah, all right. Putting the customer first. A lot of people, as John mentioned, having a good system is great, but using it is absolutely critical. And it's just about scale. I can have 100 conversations, and by the time I get to 101, I've forgotten all the first few. So using statuses, notes, just simple notes on what happened last. Something like all the emails coming in, the calls coming in, just every interaction that all of your company has had, not just you, with that customer, means that 70% or 70% of customers actually expect a smooth conversation between you and the next person in the business. So it's almost as though it's going to allow that seamless interaction between the company as a whole and the customer as an individual. And then they get that feeling of, oh, well, they're a small business, they know me. So it's kind of like think global and act local.
I think what's also important with these CRMs is the fact that customers are not forgotten, but customers are not irritated. It's about how to manage the system so that you get a one-on-one relationship with your customer and have a system that can remind you or update you in order to ensure that no one is forgotten.
When COVID first started and they were offering the banks, those repayment holidays or whatever, I booked in a call, and then I had someone call me back. They said, "I'll book in a call. It's going to take a while. We know that, expectation management, that's fine." Took about 2 weeks, they called me back. But on that day, I had about 10 people call me. I resolved it on the first call, but they didn't have that task allocation to one user to then go and deal with that issue and then mark it as done. So the next call and the next call and the next call and the next call, virtually within the next 10 minutes, were all redundant.
So can you imagine that expense of that business spending on all those people, all those resources, the same job and not being effective for someone else?
And how many times down the pub are you going to tell your mates about that experience?
Yeah, so it's assignment rules, it's workflow automations, and using things like, now we've got like omni-channel and all that sort of stuff as well. So you're picking it up off a phone call, the social media, through a chat, through a website. Doesn't matter where they engaged with the company, they need to have that single source of truth.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like one thing I definitely hear from a lot of clients is it all sounds like too hard, too hard basket. And they're like, oh, I have to start putting data here, and I have to start doing that. And like, I know for myself personally, I tell them, I'm like, I was the same guy. Like, I was like, John, you're making me do extra work. But now, once the system's all set up, I feel like, oh, I actually save a ton of time, and I don't feel like that burden is sitting on my head. Have I followed up on this? Have I checked in on this? Have I sent? Have I done? No, it's all there. What do you find? Yeah,
you have to make it the command center. You have to plug in all the emails, all the calls, all the notes, have data, forms and stuff from the website. That is the place you go to do work. It's not you can't make it an island. If it's an island, no one's going to go there, update it, and go and do any work to it.
Yeah.
If it is that, like, if you're a delivery driver and you go, no thanks, I'm gonna carry all these. If your system is your truck, it's the vehicle that's going to take you over there. That's what it has to be.
So John, tell me what kind of things that people must consider when choosing the right CRM for their business.
I want to jump in there for a start. I think firstly, it's like probably cost. People think about cost, like how much is it going to cost to run, how much is it going to cost to implement, because they want to have obviously some sort of return off that cost as well. But I think some high-level things are ease of use. It's hard to use, people won't use it, and it just becomes inaccurate straight away. And how flexible is it? So is it going to fit into our systems, or do we have to have a major change of our systems in order to bring in a CRM? So a balance of that as well. So there's obviously more than that. That's really come to mind for me.
I very much agree with that, John. I think a lot of the 90% of the benefit that you get from CRM is indirect. It's not actually the direct return. So, you know, being able to store some notes, great. Being able to have that last email interaction or a task, great. But that's not really where the value is. The value is, like we said, with those 10 people that would have called me, could then be redirected elsewhere. Or the fact that I don't have to go and have an hour meeting with someone to catch up on where that customer is at. I just look and I can see the full history, all the products they have. And so 90% of that, or that knowledge management is so critical. And with 40 seconds left, the value is really in that start time. So don't think of it. I'd almost go, how much can I spend on the software? Because that's going to save me $80,000 on an employee, or I'm going to make that $80,000 employee worth $185K in average revenue rather than the average of $94K, which is for non-digital optimized businesses.
We're actually working with a customer now who, one, they absolutely see that and they know, let's get this stuff implemented because we need to save costs and get the knowledge management happening. But another one that is the opposite, and they're like, no. Good up, Gravity.
Oh my God. I think we've never had a guest on the show count down the clock. He's like, guys, if you put in a clock, that's it. The clock is the Bible now. You're not gonna, don't you start jumping over the clock. I'm counting it down. He's like, 5, 4. John, you better cut it, man.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but you know, you got.
No, it's great. I love it.
I gotta get into the vibe. You know, this is the vibe of the show.
Yeah,
that's your background.
It's really important. That,
you get plus or minus 1 minute.
And
everyone
got knocked out, but we didn't stop the show. We just kept on going because the clock was ticking.
That's it. We had to keep going. Look, while we're on that topic, John, you know, throwing it out there, that's Avon's background. This is where these two went. Like the conversation just exploded between these two. So Avon and John, you know, I'll share with everybody. You both have a bit of a military background. Yeah, that's right. There it is. There he is.
My beret's still a bit old and tattered, but hey, still around.
That has had good use, yeah. Or do you just wear it around the office, just so everyone knows your bosses?
No,
office.
I've since become a bikie. There's a group that's like it's like ex-grunts or ex-infantry, and occasionally I go have an Anzac Day, so I dug it out of the box way up in the back of the garage. But other than that, no, that it really doesn't get any use. There from the other day.
Oh, great.
No, there's no dress up.
There's no dress ups in the office?
No.
Yeah.
A free Big Mac.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Grant, did you want to add anything to that just to kind of round it off?
I think what was so important here out of this discussion was the fact of how important a CRM is for every business. It's actually vital. And one of the things that we mentioned is that it is always hard to start a CRM, but then anything is hard in the very beginning. Yeah. It's about utilizing and having practice, because once you get the momentum and you just have to keep on tapping the wheel, then it works for you. But in the beginning, unfortunately, it's over to you. So it is hard, but it is vital. And therefore, no business today can stand alone without a CRM.
You know, and I'll add to that as well. I think also it's all about allowing the team to feed back into the system. A lot of people build a system, say it's perfect because this is how I believe it works. And one really big key thing in our business is that we constantly tap into the team and say, well, is it working? Is it working? How could it work better? And I think that is a key thing when you're making these considerations, is to just check in with your team every now and then. Is the system really working the way the team works? Let's see. Look, my timer went out. It got bored of us talking. Well, me mainly, I'm sure.
While you're doing that, like, and a good example of that is high volume sales teams. So people go, you have to have this CRM and you've got to go through this 400 steps in order to write notes into the system. And the sales team naturally have a book where they write notes, or they have a spreadsheet. I'll convert the spreadsheet over when I'm at the end of the day.
When I'm ready. Yeah.
Versus a system that's set up for high volume sales.
Yeah, it has to be as easy as or easier than filling it out in their book. And then they'll just, by nature, will just tend towards it because it's always available to them.
Macros and templates.
The salespeople always take shortcuts, don't they?
Those salespeople, those dodgy salespeople. Thanks, John. Cool. Well, on to our next question. You know, again, with this whole industry changing and changing work environments, a lot of people are going to work remotely and potentially work remotely for the rest of their time within the businesses that they're working with. You know, they might go back to like a 20-30 split or something like that, where they're spending some time in the office and some time at home. But there might be workforces that have become completely at home, working in different destinations. What is the way to kind of make those new working arrangements seamless? Because, you know, like that example that you made, I would almost hedge the bets that whole call center, those people weren't all in the same place. You know, one was in department X and another person was working from home, and another, because a lot of those call centers have also created call routing, right? So they can be working from home, placing or following up.
So
on
they
those
work,
calls.
yeah, because of COVID. They work.
There you go. So how do businesses kind of attack that? How do they make that experience seamless and consistent, you know, for that brand to represent that business? Ready to rumble?
Who's first?
Let me hit that clock. Mate, you just jump straight in. Who's got it?
I'll give my bit, and then because you've got the managed services component as well, Evan. So I reckon you can probably talk a lot about this. So look, I think something in terms of system digitizing for a business that's hugely important because of this remote working now is having all your procedures and onboarding online. So the company my wife works for, they've probably tripled their workforce in the past 18 months. And there's a lot of people who have been working for them who have never met each other in person yet. Yet there's been this seamless transition into the business. And that's because they've had extremely strong onboarding systems and extremely strong procedures manuals in that online as well. So that's a big part. And that's part of that initial sort of, I guess, that pizzazz when you join a business as well. If you join and there's just like silence and people are scrambling around saying, oh, I've got to get you a laptop and I don't know, oh, ring Fred, he doesn't know what to do. You know, he knows this system, versus everything's just laid out, ready to go. People are more likely to, how you start is how you finish. So people are more likely to stay with you as an employee as well. So I think that's a critical first step. But I'll hand it over to you, Evan, because you can.
No, you're exactly right. I think people need to build their like digital headquarters. You know, we're born in the cloud and we'll probably stay that way 100% because, you know, everyone's used to hearing the dog or a kid and, you know, people accept that. By force now, it's kind of like no one's going to think any less of a company because they've got people, you know, in their homes. And, you know, we think of the digital headquarters and enabling that, like you said, with the online courses, with, you know, things like CRM, where you've got the work in the middle that everyone can access and communicate. So there's a heavy reliance on systems. So they need to be robust. They need to be smooth and easy to use. You need to have support mechanisms. And, you know, we use a Teams, or you could use Slack or some kind of chat where you build the culture in. You're just always there. There's a backlog of current issues, advice, tips. We have a morning coffee chat every single day. And for 15 minutes in the morning, it just doesn't matter where you are. We've got the person in Chile clocks in. It's 8 o'clock at night for her. And, you know, we got people in Melbourne, Sydney, all the different time zones. And so everybody checks in and just does a welfare check. We tell a dad joke. That's the only compulsory thing of that session.
Wait, everybody tells a dad joke or just one person?
No, so one person got a book as the Father's Day present, and he reads a new page every day. Sometimes if someone's new, we'll show them the first one. The second one, they've got to do it. Once a month, we do trivia, so it goes for a bit longer. and we just do like some pub trivia or whatever. We have a laugh. We stay friendly. We celebrate wins. We post gifts like it's going out of fashion. There was Chuck Norris up there the other day because we had a win. You know, someone did something well, or it's someone's birthday. And those inter-office engagements that you don't get, you've now got to take. And I've taken a lot of time. So culture, support mechanisms, and build your digital headquarters.
Somebody disagree with him, I dare you.
I do.
Oh, I'll go for Grant. Now we're going to get
No, you've got to be contentious on the show. That's the whole point of it. So basically, you know, it's one thing to have fun and games, but I think at the end of the day, it's also put milestones, to put key objectives, put focus points for teams to reach. Because when it's all nice and work and play, a lot of people along the way tend to lose focus on to what the big outcome is of a particular company. So once again, I think it's important to have the fun and the serious with the view to make sure that there are always tangible and measurable goals. And when you find that people are falling behind, how do you create support with the view to give assistance is very much a great opportunity and tool with the view to get everyone over the line.
Well, I think to sort of further that point, in terms of working through a system, so like having the CRM side, you know, we've got our project management tool on top, which has got projects, tasks, and things like statuses and activity streams. So, you know, when we're talking about doing the work, that becomes, if everything is done through the system, then the system is the single source of truth to see if people are doing things, reaching goals and milestones, tasks, and you don't have to then chase people. Have you done this? Have you done that? You log in, you check, and then you can make if they haven't, you put a note on that task right next to the update button. Where are you at with this? Do you need help? And you mention them, they get the notification, their phone goes bling. There's no way that, like, as in not anywhere to hide, but we've got, and you try and build knowledge management next to that so they can self-solve problems and they don't get stuck. But at least they've got the how, as soon as they do it, you get notified. So you only address the problems that are still outstanding, not the things that are done and dusted. So that status management has to be the culture, not just I'll update the system later kind of thing. Yeah,
very true. Very true. So what more can we do with a system like this? What do you think is the step for tomorrow in the tomorrow space as to how we should be evolving a system like this?
I think like a trend that we're definitely seeing now, like definitely, I mean, Salesforce has always been there and Microsoft Dynamics, but something like HubSpot and Insightly are really, really pushing this now, is the integration of other systems into your CRM. So it is truly that one source of truth for everything you do. Whether it be like your accounting system, so the accounting lady knows that if an invoice is overdue, she checks on the CRM and, oh, Fred had a baby last week, so I'll give him a call and congratulate him on the baby and say, we'll just put your invoice 2 weeks, give you another 2 weeks grace period for the baby, versus that, hey, your invoice is overdue, we're going to send out a notification. So all these systems that are really, really, really integrating with each other, there's definitely a strong trend for that at the moment. And it's going to grow. That actually leads into, there's a whole other layers of like web, GDPR and all that sort of stuff, where we're disconnecting our name and we're becoming more of a number, but it's more that number then traces back to the systems that you touched. So that builds that business intelligence as well. So, hey, you jumped on our website. We also noticed you're a Microsoft user.
Do you know what's funny? And it's actually never happened on a show until today, where the one question breaches the next question. And literally the next question is, what's next for businesses that are looking to digitize? What is the next trend? What is the next big thing happen? And you guys just like, I was like, what do I do? Do I just stop it? Do I just?
I saw the face because I knew the question was coming.
Do I reset the clock? What do I do? I don't know. Like, you just started the last question. Yeah, does anyone want to throw any last little tidbits in there, or are we happy to just run straight into the next question since we've already started it?
I reckon we keep going with that.
Let's just let it run, yeah? So the next question is, just so everyone's on the same page, in case you haven't already started to answer it. What is the next thing that's happening in business? What are those up and coming trends? And let's think a little bit broader about what businesses are doing to digitize and how they can take advantage of like this next wave in digital trends. So I'm going to hit this block again for some reason. There you go.
I'll just continue on that for a second. So I think the point I was bringing out was that whole concept of people want more privacy these days. So they're starting to demand that they don't necessarily know that me, John Hill, went on this website and looked at this page. But what systems are where they're starting to lean these days is that whole thing of like, okay, you've got a unique ID. And if say they are our customer, it will actually know that it went to, say, a partner's website and had a product if I allow that information to be sent back to us. So the whole concept being that, oh, you guys are using Microsoft Office 365. Did you know that we have this discount rate for people who are users of Office 365? So there's that level of granularity around your own privacy, and the intelligence layer around that as well is a really strong trend, which I think is really interesting because it brings up a whole conversation around, if you look at Facebook, if you look at Google, all the big, huge tech companies, everyone's screaming around trying to say, you've got all our information, but it's another spin on that intelligence, which I think has a positive spin.
Yeah.
So we can argue about that in a sec, Grant. Well, discuss that, not argue.
There's a new term coming out called customer data platform, where it aims to stitch together, all of those elements. You've got those project systems, you've got those ERP systems, you've got the socials, the CRM, and pulling that back to a central analytics component where you manage those permissions and all of that sort of thing. So I think that's a concept that's been tying together those event IDs across those multiple channels. Absolutely. And I think that sort of where we were leading to before is that not only the central view of the customer, but enabling, everyone in the business to do almost everything. So no longer do you have just a salesperson. They might also be the order taker and the debt collector and the inventory management person to say, oh, look, if you want one of those, let me just check. Yep, I can see that we don't have any in stock, but we've got 2 on back order on a purchase order because now we've got supply chain issues out the wazoo. ERP and procurement side becomes a massive issue. So being able to adjust the lead times to say, yep, that's going to land on Wednesday next week. I can get it to you on a truck the day after that, which would surely then arrive by Friday. So you'll have it in a week and a half. Is that okay? Sure, no worries. I'll get right on that. And so now instead of having 4 or 5 calls, you can do it all on 1, maybe 2. But now we've improved the customer's time, so they don't have to spend an hour and a half on the phone, the employee time, and the centralization or going backwards and forwards off the call to go and find that stuff in the background.
Yeah. Look, another thing that's also transpiring, as we noticed with remote working, is the fact that we're getting onto a lot more video calls. And with video calls, there's a lot more of these calls that have been recorded in the sense of commitments as to what you said and how you said it, which is being stored. So once again, it's taking that whole privacy issue to another dimension in the sense of your participation as to what was said, as to where you're incriminating yourself to that of anyone else. And suddenly you're now in a very totally different realm of responsibility to what you ever were previously when you just worked in an office. And that's one of the things that's going to start transpiring with the view of getting all these central systems to work and correlate together. But at the same time, for business owners to make sure that productivity still exudes expectations by reaching financial goals.
Can I ask something with that centralization of that information on that platform? Do you also, as a user, which is kind of what GDPR is all about, right? Do you have power to manage that information that's going out about you and how that's being accumulated? Does the power ever fall back in the user's hand?
If you've ever tried to unsubscribe from something, half the time now that goes to another page which goes, which list do you want to be taken off? Like, not all of them. Like, you scroll down 8 times to get to the remove me from everything. So they do have this centralized record. I want to learn more about this. I don't want the daily. I want the weekly. I want this product line, not that product line. So that kind of choice they're trying to give you to stop the bulk. No, get me off. So that's a way to tie you in. Now, we're talking very much consumers, but even in the B2B space, I think 70% of all B2B decision makers are now online ready millennials. So they are aware of all of the tech stuff in the background. They know how they deal with the privacy. They know about spam, so they're not going to click most things. So, and they know how to block and all those sorts of things. So you're not going to get accidental, link trackers or whatever. They're gonna have VPNs. They're going to be closing you down as hard as they can. So you have to get them to want to engage with you.
Yeah. So
not
there you
just
value. You have to entice value for them to opt in. And therefore, you've got to listen and understand what they want and give them what they want, because if they don't opt in, you're not going to have them.
Well, there's a much bigger trend towards online e-commerce, not only for the B2C space and typical e-commerce products, but even B2B services and products. So, and it makes sense for businesses to do it, because for someone to sit there and take an order could cost you $70, whereas it'll cost you $1 for an online order. Set up a panel and this is what we're talking with the ERP and side of things, where you can have that company's settings, the agreed discounts, the agreed price limits, levels, or whatever, so that when they place an order, it will look at the company, apply all of those rules, and then give them the checkout specific to them. And that is being done across SAP, Financial Force, Microsoft Dynamics. It is huge. Most large companies are pushing in that direction.
It's also about those bots giving that personal one-on-one service when there's a person who can't attend to them very quickly, in order to make sure they can capture it, get the information, give them drive them in a certain direction with a view to capture a deal.
Self-service, impatient users. I don't want to wait for information. I want to find it in a help desk right now. That is the future. If you have to wait, you don't fly.
Okay, we can't leave it there. Okay, I've got one more question before we leave off that question, which I know is breaking the rules, so I don't care. It's my show, goddammit. I'm sharing it with you. No, it's Grant and I show. Sorry, Grant. So my question was, because a lot of companies are taking this approach, but then also dissolving their call facility. And me as a user, that drives me crazy. Especially because you go through like 10 automated questions before it then arrives at a question that's like, did we not answer your question? And you're like, no, you didn't answer my question. And now you're like, wait for somebody. And I'm like, mate, I've been already here for 20 minutes. Like, how long am I going to wait for somebody to show? If I called you, I'd already be done. What are your thoughts on where's the line between kind of digitizing and dehumanizing a process?
I think businesses need to, once they are able to, they need to really focus on striking a balance. As an example, say from a simple website design perspective, the old days was like fill out a bazillion questions, and then it went to just your email address because no one's going to want to give you anything. Now it's drifted to this like, well, if you really want it, you're probably going to give a phone number because you probably want to have someone to chat to you, maybe a couple of other details. So from a design web perspective, this is obviously on top of your CRM. There's quite a lot of websites these days where we give the option, fill out this email and someone will get back to you, or download this CD, whatever it is. But then you have two options within a call to action. And in the early days of web, that was a big no-no. Don't confuse the person. But now we've got this thing in the middle that says, do you want someone to call you, or do you want to just get an email and find out some more details? So I think that's a nice little hint of this, give control back to the customer, let them decide how they want to be spoken to. I mean, classic example is like trying to get on to the old days, like Telstra or Optus, when they went totally, or TPG for me when COVID first hit, we had some issues with our internet, And I was like, you call them, oh, sorry, all our call center is currently shut. Jump online. Sorry, our web system's currently broken. It's like, what do I do?
It got overloaded.
Yeah. So, that was obviously extreme because their call center was probably shut down because they couldn't get people physically there. But this whole concept of like some industries, people just want to talk to someone. Some industries, people want to choose their own path. So give them, where you can give them a choice.
Yeah.
I
Smart data from a CRM, so I'm just going to jump in again. But if you've got like
this guy unstoppable today.
When you've gathered enough data, your website should be able to get a sense of what they prefer. If they always call, then have phone numbers more prominent on the site. If they tend to go down the digital route, give them more, opt-ins to get more information.
I think it's a bit of a battle between cost versus market share. You got the directorships that are managing by the stroke of a pen based on data. So what they're going to do is not necessarily think of you as an individual. They're going to try and think of, I have call center, head cost is X, that cost me this much per hour. But then by being cost focused, then they might have lower quality call center operators, which take 3 times longer to handle the call, that don't have the same training, that feel like they're reading from a script and the customer service feels horrible. Then there's other metrics that they're going to look at, like, CSAT and NPS and all of that. And then if you're trying to go for market share and you're trying to improve those things, then you might make more availability for data. And you've got things like AI that are surfacing, better articles. And the only ways that those improve is by being tested and being voted on, so that the AI can be trained to say that surface this when they use that. Then they're doing things like synonym groups. What words do people use to find these group of answers? Or they might be using, different chatbot methods, and you can handle 11 chats to 1 phone call simultaneously. So
I should turn on another timer. I feel like I should turn on another
and well, the other thing they're trying to do is displace. So you've got these peaks and troughs in the service call. So you might get 10 calls in this minute, and then 1 call in the next minute, and then 37 in the next. So by getting that callback option, they can displace to a time when they're ready.
Callback is superb. I love that feature.
Callback's the best.
The best.
Yeah, because you feel like you're not sitting there waiting for ages. But it's like, press 1 if you would like a callback. Or you go to the website and you fill out a little form and they'll call you back within 40 minutes or something. But they're doing it in there.
2020 buzzword was pivot. 2021 is callback.
Yeah, and all they're trying to do is smooth out their service queue, because otherwise, there's these huge other systems in the background, workforce management systems, where they've got to try to say, all right, looking at the data, and they're working off the past history. So pre-COVID, they had no barometer for this. So they've gone, all right, well, I can see our peak hours are between 2 and 4, and then 7 and 8 p.m. And so we need to have an additional 20% more staff in the morning, and then 37% more staff in the afternoon. And so they're trying to match that whilst keep the cost down. And all of a sudden, COVID, everyone's home, 24/7. They've got access to, lock off from their computer work environment because they're not there 9 to 5 anymore, and then go and do that other part.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like we could keep talking about this for a very long time, but we can't. Okay, enough.
Every
enough,
time,
guys.
Can't.
Avon froze again.
We have such amazing guests.
Avon made his point, and then he froze again.
Right, I've got something to add. I'm quite sad at this point in time, because for the first show ever, we've never been able to utilize the word edutainment in.
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna bring it up, and then you didn't. You didn't say it.
There was no spot. There wasn't.
Yeah, the valuable. You were talking about. You're gonna make valuable content. And
No,
I thought,
edutainment.
I know. I thought he was gonna throw it in there.
Got you.
Oh man, that was a great show. I love the energy. I loved everyone just talking in and trying to get in there with their different ideas and different concepts. As always, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Avon has unfortunately frozen. Hopefully he'll come back, and I'm just going to add him back into the stream. But hopefully he'll come back to life in a second. Nope, he left the stream. And then we can officially give him a goodbye. But until he comes back, if you can make it back in. Thank you, Grant, as always, for joining us. John, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, mate. It's good to have another part of these in. we should invite like different members from our team into the show.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Oh, next week.
Shall we pitch the new podcast today, or
sure,
Yeah,
go for it, Johnny. I wouldn't dare stop you, John.
We'll say an official. I'll do it now. So just so the viewers are aware, I'm kicking off a new podcast called MIA in a month or two, about a month. So I'm going to leave it. You can we'll release what the MIA
stands for. MI stands for.
I'll tell you in an upcoming social post.
Yeah, we'll do John and I will do a live feed and we'll introduce the show. John and I will do a show to introduce the show.
MIA podcast for something that's
MIA podcast. Yeah, keep an eye out for that. Avon, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
That's right. Looks like I'll be requesting a callback from TPG.
Yeah, that's it. Go for it, man. Awesome.
You had this look of amazement on your face. I was like, you content amazed yourself, and you just
so amazed by it.
That's so amazing.
Avon, thank you so much for joining us. Grant, what I was going to say is let's get Vincent on our next show. Vincent, who's our senior designer, because our next show is going to be all about branding. So we're going to be talking about recent refreshes that are happening in the market. We're all going to put our opinion on the page. Everybody's rebranding at the moment. I think a lot of businesses took the time during this lockdown to have a look at their brands and just paint it a little differently.
It's going to be a controversial show.
Yeah, very excited about that show. We lost Avon again. We're not going to wait for him to come back. If he pops in the next couple of minutes while we wrap up the show, great. If not, Avon, thank you so much. Please watch this end bit of the show to hear us say thank you to you for joining us. Everybody who's listening, please. Oh, he's back. He's back.
It's ridiculous.
Please, everybody, please like, share, comment. If you have topics that you want us to talk about or guests that you want to see on the show, please let us know. Thank you, Berta, for saying you love Vincent. He'll definitely be on the show now. Okay, he has no choice. We'll get him on the show.
Berta on here too.
Thank you, Avon. Just in case TPG freezes again, thank you so much for joining us. And to everyone out there, have an unbelievable Friday. Please enjoy your first day of freedom if you're here in Sydney. If you're in Melbourne, sorry. If you're in Brisbane, whatever. You guys have been free the whole time. Nobody cares. And he brushes his hair to the side like a Pantene ad. Awesome, guys. Thank you very much. Have a great Friday, and we'll catch you on the next show.
Ciao.
Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.